Hello and welcome back everyone. I'm Will Buxton here with Laura Winter as we head into the 2025 season and home opener in Melbourne, Australia.
Before the home opener, we will go ahead and share information and excerpts from the press conferences of several drivers in this year's lineup earlier today. Firstly, a response from Konnersport's Callie Mayer regarding her performance as the latest female F1 driver in the current era of F1 cars.
It's a challenge for anyone entering Formula racing, and even more so for those aiming for F1. For me, it's an extra challenge, but I manage to push myself every day I'm in that car. And with each day, I can see myself working my way through the grid to scoring points for the team this season.
We also have a response from Hamilton on what to expect for the season as he makes the move to Ferrari, which everyone has been so hyped about.
I've been thinking about the move almost the entirety of last season, and I couldn't be happier. The team and I have put in a lot of work during the off-season, and we are ready to hit that track this weekend and come out with one of many wins that we are looking forward to this season.
And last but not least, a surprising return to fill a seat for Audi Sport is none other than Sebastian Vettel with his response on returning to the grid.
Honestly, I've missed being part of it these past few seasons. The changes are profound. It's just not the same when you're not the one in the driver's seat on the track at the heart of the action. With the move to Audi, the team believes that Carlos and I can kickstart the team's inaugural season on the grid. I'm looking forward to this not only as a comeback, but also as an opportunity to help a new team make their mark.
A lot of emotional moments from the press conferences this week as we are finally getting the 2025 season underway as we head back over to Australia for qualifying.
All right, so here we are back in F1 23, and I just want to give you guys a warning now. If you guys have been watching my other series, I had some graphic issues, and this is before the fix. So there's your warning now for this episode. It should be fixed by the second episode. But our first run in qualifying one back on F1 23, restarting season 3, get a good tow from Russell, getting provisional pole. That's good enough to get us into Q2 with a 118. And then Q2, our first run, I believe it's our first run, we get a tow from Piastri, who's currently sitting P14, who it's just because we haven't scored or put any times in yet. 118.290 flat. That's good enough for another provisional pole. It's good enough to get us into Q3. And we have our teammate Tsunoda. He's a little bit farther ahead than I would have wanted to get a tow, but we hit that DRS. Doing a lot better in Q3 and coming across the line. That's our first run coming across the line, 118.9, so it's worse than the previous runs. But our final run here in Q3, currently sitting at P8 behind Tsunoda. Both of us doing really good, actually, so far at the start of the season. And we're looking to improve that time, and we do so. But it's only going to be good enough for, I believe, yeah, it's the second row, P3, second row. First race of the season.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid. Oscar Piastri, Leclerc and Johnson. With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
All right, so we are back starting in the second row for the first race of the season. We actually spent some time in the practice sections to get used to the handling, get used to the car again, especially with the setups that we have. And I feel like we have the difficulty set pretty accurately compared to what we ran beforehand. But yeah, we had to adjust the setup just a little bit because the car just took forever to hit the braking point and the turn-in, so we had to adjust our wings accordingly. So starting in the second row for the first race next to Lando Norris, our teammate Yuki Tsunoda, not too far behind us, with the Red Bull splitting pretty much us and then the Ferrari. So let's get to the race.
Months months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Johnson, Norris, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Ocon, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Sargent, Sainz, Butler, Gasly, Vesti, Russell, Doohan, Vettel, Mick Schumacher, Jackson and Callie Mayer. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Natalie Pinkham is with me today as we get another year of Formula One underway.
Well, it's clear, very clear conditions, and that makes it clear for the drivers because they don't have to worry and have that added distraction of fickle weather. They can concentrate on the driving and not everything else around them.
All right, it seems like the research for this season has paid off, and you definitely appear to be ready for the season to get underway. Now let's go and secure your third career win.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. We're almost ready to start the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
And we have those preparations pretty much set up as we see all the cars coming through the grid. I don't know why, but I really like this cinematic angle here in Australia, this final corner, and the two Konnersports coming around the corner for the back of the grid. Really hoping that they can do better this season, since we simulated 2 seasons going into this 3rd season, but we'll have to wait and see. We've done a lot of behind the scenes stuff to try to mix the grid up as much as possible as we pull up to the grid. Another thing I don't like is at the 5 red lights we don't have the cinematic effect that we did in last year's game, as we are off to a decent start. Piastri, Leclerc on the inside on the front row, and we're easily holding on to P3 ahead of Lando Norris in the McLaren, Ocon in that Martini Williams up into P5, Ricciardo, Verstappen P6-7, Sainz, Hamilton, Tsunoda to finish off the top 10 coming through these first few corners. And I had to readjust the camera angle to what I was used to on F124 because I got comfortable. Like, I don't remember what it was on F123. I got comfortable with what I was using on F124. So we go through the grid here at the top 10. Tsunoda back there coming through. And then we came back to F123, and I was comfortable with how low the camera was sitting in this year's game. But I went back through and adjusted my settings as best as possible to give you guys a similar effect. If you go back to the F124 videos, where the mirrors are nearly touching the edge of the screen. Still holding on to P3 as we're coming around these final few corners of lap 1. It's already done here in Australia. Piastri leads, Leclerc second, myself third, Norris, Ocon, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hamilton, Sainz, Tsunoda. So the top 10 hasn't really moved much, and neither has the bottom 10. As we move on to the next little bit of action, which is actually the end of lap 2. We don't get DRS to lap 3 on F123, so we'll get it on this lap in sector 2. The back end's coming out a little bit more. Right there, trying to put the power down, getting used to the handling of this car as Norris takes advantage of that, moves on the inside, but we're still able to hold on. And we go off track. That's our first off-track warning. And we're side to side hustling with Norris, and then Ocon comes in for a 3 wide here in through this right-hander. A little bit of contact on Norris. We move the wheel to try to get away from him, and we end up coming out of that fight, no damage and no warning from that contact. So we're still holding on to P3. Ocon is putting the pressure on Norris, and Gasly still putting the pressure on Tsunoda there on P10. But Norris is going to have another opportunity, this time with DRS. He's going to make a move on the inside of this very fast portion of the track. This fast-paced chicane, I feel better about it on this game compared to F1 24, because how the car handles, like, you have to anticipate the car in this game, where in this year's game, it's a rocket and it turns on the dime. So still holding off against Lando Norris, and that fight these last few laps have managed to increase the gap between Leclerc and myself up to almost 4 seconds as we're coming across the line for lap 4. Norris making another attempt on the inside. This time he's going to be able to hold on to that. Little bit of contact there as he hit the braking point, and Ocon is trying to make a move there, coming through turn 2, side by side, coming up into turn, I believe this is turn 3 or 4. I lose track of what turns there are on each track unless I really know the track on the back, like the back of my hand. But we're gonna be down to P5 with that, losing 2 positions here on lap 4, and we still have a lot of race ahead of us. 3.8 seconds is the gap between P2 and P3 now, as the grid is starting to spread out a little bit past the top 5. Ricciardo down by a second. Verstappen got passed by Hamilton, who's up in P7 now, and Gasly passed Tsunoda, who's up in the P10 now. So a lot of changes going on in the backfield as we're trying to chase down Esteban Ocon. So we don't actually manage to get up to him until here on lap 9. He's in the toe of Lando Norris. 3.3 seconds is the gap between Norris and Leclerc on P2, as we're still trying to push, but that's our second track limits warning. We need to hold on to the car. We went over the line a little bit, and we're basically just trying to stay in the toe of Ocon and that Martini Williams, who's done really good in the simulations. No help, no thanks to us. We haven't touched anything other than trying to upgrade parts for Audi for this season, as the back end tries to step out there on the start of lap 10. Alright, I am a little bit congested still. If you guys are following my other series, I just trying to wait till I feel better to record this video, and I have the time to record the commentary for this video. That's why we're doing it. Ricciardo coming into the pits early. That's why you're seeing him drop down the order. As Sargent actually retired there in sector 3, I believe it was, at the end of lap 9. So we have a yellow flag in sector 3. He's looking to pull over and retire. So we're trying to put the pressure on Ocon. DRS open for both of us. We're trying to make a move on the outside before this high-speed chicane. Can we do it? We outbrake him, make a move on the outside, and we come through this chicane, come over the edge. We lose the back end, and we make contact, slamming into the wall with Ocon. That's going to pull a full safety car, as we're right next to Sargent, actually. Here's the replay on board with Esteban Ocon. You can see us in the mirror there on the right side. We outbroke him. We have the lead way through the chicane. We end up going wide, and he just comes in on us, slam into the wall. We lose our front wing and our rear wing.
You'll be coming in under the safety car. Both you and Ocon have been given 5-second penalties for the contact. We're still reviewing the data, but we will switch you to hard tires. Okay, we've inspected the rest of the car during your pit stop, and it seems there's some damage to the rear wing that we can't fix right now. Please keep us updated on how the car handles for the remainder of the race.
Well, Martin, it can't be a great start to the season without a safety car, can it? If you are just now joining us, we had Ocon and Johnson making contact in Sector 3. Johnson making contact with the wall and apparently has rear wing damage from a recent team radio after the pit stops under the safety car.
After looking at the replay and hearing what the teams involved had to say about the penalties, you have to realise that a situation like that just comes down to a racing incident. I believe it was a bit too early for those drivers to get penalties for something like that.
Ted, you're down in the pits. How did Aston Martin look when Johnson came in?
Well, Crofty, the team executed their pit stop as well as they could, replacing the front wing. But after the stop, there were shaking heads and looks of concern, despite a strong start to the race. There still seems to be hope for a decent finish today for Aston Martin.
Thank you, Ted. We will check in later as we get ready for the race restart.
All right, so here we are, lap 13, and the field has shuffled a little bit. Jackson all the way up in the P10 after that safety car restart. And we lost some positions. Ocon is still up there in P4. He didn't really have that much damage compared to us. We're going to be slotting in behind Devin Butler for this restart. And this is where we're going to start having those graphic issues that I was talking about at the beginning of the race, which is unfortunate, but we'll make through. We'll make do with it and see how we can do here. As we're off to a restart, tires are a little cold, as you guys saw the back end coming out. Lap 14 now of 29, so we're pretty much halfway through this race. Coming through a safety car, and a lot of people choosing the mediums compared to the hard tires to make it to the end. See if there will be another late stop. And I just remembered that Daniel Ricciardo, who's up in P5, he actually hit before the safety car. So he's going to end up having to come in early because he was under the safety car on those tires. And that basically makes it a disadvantage for them as we're still trying to push against Butler. Not much is going to happen on this lap because we don't get DRS until lap 16. But we are still trying to put the pressure down, pushing the battery, making the move on the inside. We're going to be side by side coming through this chicane and holding onto that. The back end coming out on Butler, and that gives us the position, and he's falling back. But we're also losing ground to Jack Doohan, one of the rookies for the season. In the Alpine for the 2025 season, as I'm still a fan of the dark blue and not a fan of the 2024 livery, if you guys didn't already know. We drove for Alpine to do the 124 season, but the fight continues with Jack Doohan up to lap 16, and we have Jackson up ahead of him in the Konnersport. As we're looking to make some moves on these hard tires, a lot of people around us on the mediums, like I said. Jack Doohan is one of them, and Butler is still trying to hold on to that toe from us as we have DRS now. We're gonna make a move, see what happens here, coming through Sector 2 and start of Sector 3. There's the DRS activation point. We're gonna push Doohan to the inside and make a move on the outside like we did previously with several other drivers. That's going to be an easy overtake to the chicane. And next up is Jackson, who is a half second ahead. That's another 1.5 seconds to George Russell, who's in P9. It looks like Schumacher, our old teammate, who is in Mercedes. He was our teammate last in Season 2, and Aston Martin has an engine failure. So that's going to be Schumacher and Sargent as the back end steps out once again on these hard tires. It's just the setup. I got it as best as I could, trying to put the power down on that straight to keep in the toe of Jackson here. Lap 18 now is when we're finally in the toe and looking to make a move. As we come out the start of Sector 2, I believe that's where it's at. because I know Sector 3 is like right around the chicane. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with Butler, or doing in this point, through the chicane. We make the move on Jackson before the chicane, actually, which gives him an opportunity. But that's 3 seconds now between P10 and P9 of George Russell. A little bit of a position change here on lap 20, as we're looking to try to make a move and see what we can do. Daniel Ricciardo coming into the pits. Like I said, he was late on, well, he was early on the pit stop before the safety car, and we are up in the P9. That's a free pit stop, or that's a free position because of that pit stop. As Jackson holds on to P10, but Butler is closing in as we're on lap 21 now. And we basically have to pace this car to the end of the race on these hard tires and hold on to these points. Lap 25, Butler made the move on Jackson. As we're going to start a battle, let's go to our F1 commentators real quick.
Well, Martin, this season opener has been one to remember, and as we're watching the current battle between Johnson and Butler, we are checking in with Haas's team principal, Ayao Komatsu. How is Devon holding up in the car with previous hearing issues?
Devon is doing as expected. With previous hearing issues, he has agreed to have a clause in the contract to have another driver step in while he takes care of himself, which the team hopes we don't have to worry about, but we will see how this season plays out.
He is definitely showing effort out on the track. Let's hope he doesn't encounter any issues like he did with Konnersport, who are also aiming for an improvement from last season, which, as we see, both Konnersport cars seem to be improving from where they were at last year.
We will have to pay close attention to Konnersport this year, as there was a bit of talk in the off-season if they were going to stick around or not after Davidoff almost backed out of funding.
That's some early speculations on what may to come for the 2026 season as we continue watching the battle for P9 between Johnson and Butler as we near the end of the race.
And that fight for us is going to continue. We're still somewhat ahead of Butler, about 8/10 or so. He's going to have DRS along this main straight, but the gap now between us and Vesti, who's in P8, 5.5 seconds, 5.5 seconds to P8. So we're fighting for 2 points basically at this point, and we're already on the last lap, and we're fighting Butler for this extra point for this championship. He's fighting for a point for Haas. I know Haas hasn't scored much points in season 1. They scored a handful in season 2 due to simulation, and we are looking to start the season on the right foot, scoring at least the 2 points. I know Tsunoda kind of got fucked over with the safety car, as we have a bad angle there. The back end stepping up. These rear tires, the tire life on these rear tires really rough through sector 2 and 3, as we're trying to defend as much as possible against Butler here. He has DRS coming up to the chicane, and we are holding on to this lead against Devon Butler. One of the 2 rookies, I believe. 2? I don't know, I'll have to double check. I think Vesti is in this as well for 3 rookies. But coming around the final few corners, Butler in the mirror, coming around the second to last corner now, and that's basically going to write the book for this race. Going to be finishing in P9 for 2 points for the team, and that's going to be a great start to our season.
All right, P9 finish after a great fight at the end. See you in the pits.
Tough race at times, but they've held on to take a great victory for McLaren today. So, Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I really feel the track layout, combined with the track temperatures we saw today, suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be celebrating tonight. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Oscar Piastri takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship after that excellent result. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Oscar Piastri gets my vote today.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. McLaren supplant the previous leaders and take control of the championship. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.